What is up, everybody? It is Kyle from the Offsetting Opinions channel, and today we are going to be discussing horror movies and my love for them. With the new Scream coming out, and I watched the new kind of spot trailer that they dropped within the last couple of days. Man, I'm getting really excited about this movie. I really am a big fan of the Scream franchise, and I might produce a review on that after I leave the theater and let the kind of experience soak in a little bit. But going back to the Scream series and my love for horror movies, all that kind of stemmed from my childhood. And when I was a kid, the very first movie I watched was A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is a great movie revolving around you go to sleep, there's a killer in your sleep, and if you die in your dreams from this killer, which is Freddy Krueger, you die in real life. And for its time, it's a slasher movie that was produced in the 80s, and it had a cult following for a long amount of time until they got to a point where they tried to remake the movie with Jackie Earl Haley playing Freddy Krueger. And I thought the movie was fine for what it is. I think the kills were unique, but the story just kind of was a little derivative from the original material, and it kind of wanted to set itself up for its own thing. And they made this Fred Krueger character a little bit more, I don't want to say sinister, but just, they tried to make him like a pedophile, and that wasn't really what he was about in the original movies. So yeah, they decided to go that route, and I think it had a lot of backlash from it, and I think rightfully so. But the kills were great, and the movie was great. But going back to the original, I think Wes Craven is a great director for horror movies, and I think he really showcased that in the very first. I mean, the very first kill I remember watching in that movie was the character Tina, and she had her boyfriend in the room with her, and they fall asleep, and she is chased by Freddy Krueger in her dreams. And then it kind of pans into the room and the boyfriend waking up. And then she gets dragged to the ceiling, and then the finger knives kind of cut her in her stomach. And then she falls to the bed and she's dead. That was the very first kill I've ever seen on screen. And I remember watching that with my dad and just thinking, like, number one, it was like, wow, what is that? Like, holy Jesus, people can die in their dream. And like, I'm looking at it like a documentary, and I kind of got scared a little bit watching that, but at the same time, I wanted to kind of seek out more. And I think that's where my love of horror movies started, was walking into the room, kind of seeing Freddy Krueger chase this girl around, and then the result of that was her dying in the room and everything like that. That was when I was, I want to say, like 6 or 7 years old. And like it evolved into something more, and I even got like Funko Pops and things like that I'm accumulating for my room to kind of show my love for horror and really give my room the vibe that I have going on. And I'm even going to kind of turn my camera here for a little bit. I got animatronic Art the Clown over there. So I'm really kind of going hard on the horror aspect in my room, and Scream poster right there. Again, I talked about that movie coming out soon here too. And I'm really excited for some of the horror movies this year. Actually, Terrifier being the other one. Scream 7, obviously. I mean, it's the seventh installment in this franchise. But I think they knocked the last couple. I think 5 and 6 were great. 4 was meh. 3 was meh. 1 and 2 were great. But looking forward to 7. Going back to the roots with Gal Weathers. Going back to Sidney Prescott. And really following the characters. Like, there's more continuity to Scream than there is a lot of other horror franchises. If you go into like the Halloween series, you had the first 2 had Jamie Lee Curtis in it, and the third one wasn't even about Michael Myers. They go to 4 and 5. They try to establish a new character. They have a new kind of lead that you follow, and you take the journey within 4 and 5. And then 6 is a completely different person, and then it goes back to Jamie Lee Curtis's character. So it's kind of all over the place. Scream is the only real franchise where you get 7 movies, and most of the characters from the original movie, or at least the legacy characters, as they call it, are at least in the forefront in almost every single movie, if not all the movies. The only one that's missing is Sidney Prescott in 6, and but Gal Weathers is there, so there's at least some sort of presence there. And I think that continuity kind of plays into their strengths of the franchise, because you're following these characters throughout their entire life, since from high school, and now she's married with kids, and the kids in high school, and that's what this new one's about. And now her kid's the same age that she was when all that stuff happened to her when she was in high school. Sidney Prescott's character, which is played by Nev Campbell, and I think she's brilliant in all the movies. when you look at all these different horror franchises and they have like that final girl kind of aura, I think Nev Campbell as Sidney Prescott's up there. Sigourney Weaver as Ripley in the Alien series. You want to talk about, these great performances from strong female leads. I think she's up there too. Jamie Lee Curtis can be the same in Halloween. And you can go down the list of a couple other ones, I'm sure. And I would even say Lauren Laverne in the Terrifier series. I think she's really making a pretty good case for being a great final girl too. But the continuity part of it for Scream was really something that I kind of cherished. I grew up watching this franchise. I watched from the first one when it was released all the way up to, I've seen every single one of them in theaters. I look forward to these movies. It's a very unique twist on horror because it's the only movie where you get the experience of finding out the killer throughout the entire movie until the reveal. And they always give you enough breadcrumbs to kind of go through these different, like there's the theory about the flannel, like if you're wearing flannel, you're a killer, or the black boots, or like if you look at all the entire picture of who the killers are and what the different things that they're wearing and the little breadcrumbs they give you throughout the years. And now that people figure that out, I think they're going to flip it on its head. They're going to try and kind of red herring that and kind of go a different direction because a lot of people are catching on to that, some of the stuff they've been doing. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to, who the killer is. They have Matthew Lillard coming back in this one. So he was one of the killers in the first one. There is some presence of AI that they're going to say that's in this movie, which could play into why Matthew Lillard's character is back, why some of the other killers and some of the other killed off legacy characters are coming back. So I'm interested to see what they do, what route they go, how the story evolves, what they're going to, how they're going to move the franchise moving forward, because this originally was supposed to be in 5 and 6, it was Jenna Ortega and Sam Carpenter, the Carpenter sisters there. They were supposed to be the one that takes the lead into their, taking on the franchise beyond what it was supposed to be. However, now they're kind of going back to legacy characters and reestablishing some of those characters. And I think they're going to progress with some of those characters as well in the future. So I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to be day one, go in the theaters and get some popcorn and just sit back and enjoy the movie for what it is. And I'll write some notes and I'll bring a review and I'll talk about the kills. I won't reveal any killers because I'll be excited about it and I'll reveal some of the kills and I'll dismiss some of the actors that get killed off and the characters that get killed off. But I'll just kind of give my unfiltered, unbiased opinion. I do have a lot of hype for it, so hopefully I don't get disappointed. I don't think I will, though. And then we kind of a little bit talked about Halloween. That was another movie that I was really big into growing up. I do have Michael Myers. He's right there as one of the Funko Pops, one of the original ones. So I have it, and actually that's the it. That one here is Art the Clown. Then you have Vecna, because I'm big in that. I loved Stranger Things. I think Vecna was a great villain. I think they did the Vecna character in season 5. They could have did way more with that character, and I think they dropped the ball on that. But the terrifying menace and the principle of what Vecna could be, that's what I fell in love with. I think I wish you would have did a little bit more and killed off a main character or two before the show ended. And then you have Insidious, another franchise that I enjoy. This he's that Red Devil guy from the first one, and then he was actually in the Red Door as well. And that's another franchise where the first 2 movies are great, and then it kind of fell off in quality. And then I also have Michael Myers there, and then obviously you have the Scream poster. I have the Terrifier, so Art the Clown. That's a lava lamp there, and then you saw Art the Clown animatronic over there. So I'm kind of building this room to kind of really showcase my love for horror movies and all that stuff. But getting back to Michael Myers there, that's another franchise I really love. Halloween's my favorite holiday. And I love going out, taking my kid out, looking at all the costumes, seeing all the horror characters that are out there. This year, there's a lot of Ghostface. I saw a couple Art the Clowns. I saw a couple Michael Myers. Those are usually always staples, at least the Scream, Ghostface, and then Michael Myers. And every once in a while, you'll get like whatever's hot. So there wasn't any Vecna, but some Demogorgon kind of cosplay stuff that was going on out there. I saw a couple Freddy Krueger ones in there. So it's just some icons in there, Jason Voorhees. And it's just something I look forward to every year, taking my kid out, seeing all the costumes and seeing the impact that horror has in a lot of the different communities and the places that I lived over the years. So I went from New York, seeing a lot more kind of people there with horror, just because there's a bigger populace, which means there's going to be more horror fans to even in, here in South Dakota, where I've lived in a couple different places. And I've seen a lot of, still some of those same iconic characters being, dressed up as for Halloween and things like that. So I think that's pretty cool. And going back to like Halloween, the very first movie, my goodness, you want to talk about, that's John Carpenter, and he was such a that movie was ahead of its time. It really, I think, established what a slasher should be. You have this kid on Halloween night randomly kill his daughter, or it's not his daughter, good Lord, his sister. So this kid kills his sister and just goes out front holding a knife, and he's in the front, and his parents come home and the cops are there, and he's just sitting there blank, staring his face with a knife up over next to his head. And it cuts into like the mom crying because the daughter, her daughter's dead, the sister's dead. And then it kind of fast forwards a certain amount of time into like Laurie Strode's character, which I think it was 20 years later, something like that. I don't remember. The amount of time it escapes me. It's been since Halloween, since I've seen it. And again, it's a great movie. The premise is great. And I think what gives that movie such a great aura around it is because you have this thing that's called The Shape. It kind of just took over this kid who randomly snaps one day and kills his sister. And that evolves into this thing that you can't reason with. It's just someone that's going through trying to just kill anybody it's in his way. And you can't reason with it. It's pure evil. It doesn't talk back to you. It doesn't really, there's no dialogue there. You don't see their face. They're just glued to this persona and this pure evil entity just taking out people in town. And the franchise started off great. The first two movies, great. Third one didn't even have Michael Myers in it. As a standalone movie, it was meh. For a Halloween movie, I didn't like it. 4 and 5, the quality really dipped. I think it really did the franchise a disservice. And the actors in it were fine. The little girl, I think her name was Jamie in the movie. She was fine, but you really couldn't root for the characters. And I think they did that on purpose. And the town people, they became just unreasonable. And they kind of try to take matters in their own hands, and it kind of ended up backfiring on them. And they tried to establish this cult. And I think that's where it kind of got away from this whole Halloween and the mysteriousness of Halloween. And they try to create some sort of backstory for Michael Myers. And we saw that really didn't pan out. And then it goes into a movie with The Curse of Michael Myers, which is the 6th one with Paul Rudd. And that's supposed to be Tommy Doyle. And that movie, I can't watch it. It's unwatchable. It was, as a kid, you watch it and, the kills in it are fine. The creative mind behind the kills, I think they could have did a little bit more with it. What made that movie and the original Halloween so great was the iconic moment where the kid's downstairs grabbing a beer, trying to bring a beer up to the room where his girlfriend is. While he's down there, he encounters Michael Myers and he stabs him in the gut, and he's pinned up against the wall with nothing but the kitchen knife. And that's such an iconic moment. And the rest of the franchise, I mean, there's some creative kills, don't get me wrong, but it's tough to kind of top that because, again, for its time, what they did and how they executed it was just, it was flawless. And I think that's one of the most creative kills, and the most kind of like, when you think Halloween, that's what you envision in that movie and that franchise is that exact moment where you're just like, oh my God, like that's the one where this guy, he's going to grab a beer and he stabs him in the stomach and he's stuck up against that wall. And I think that's, like I said, that's that iconic moment for them. And H2O was okay. It kind of reestablished the franchise with Jamie Lee Curtis's character, who's Laurie Strode. And now she's got a kid and she's teaching at a college, and she's all about her privacy. And now she's dating some professor. And again, the story, it's a definitely improvement from 4 and 5 and definitely 6. But it's, again, I think it was just lacking something. There's just something missing that I just can't describe in that movie that just didn't put it on the pedestal of 1 and 2. And then they did the Rob Zombie movies when he directed the 2 movies in that franchise. And it really only upped the brutality of Michael Myers, and they tried to establish some sort of kind of like a base character of why Michael Myers is the way that he is, and had this kid talk with and had this abusive dad. And I mean, does it make sense? Sure. But if you're going to do that, the kid was talking back, and he was, make the kid just silent, make him like a coward or something. I think they tried way too hard to make this kid unlikable and talk back against a father that's abusive and a mother that's just a pushover. And I think that's where a lot of the fans had an issue with those movies, because when you're in the future and you're, well, like the present, I suppose, and you're not looking back at that formula that they're trying to create, it takes away from what the movie was. And it tried to establish a backstory that didn't need to be told. And for me, the kills were great. The brutality of Michael Myers and that was great. You know, the first one, exceptional. I think that movie was great outside of the backstory portion of it. And the second one really elevated that backstory and really explored it a little bit more. And I didn't really like that. And it just took away from the movie. And I think the second one is pretty dismissible. So the first one, it's okay for what it is. It established the brutality part of it. The second one from the Rob Zombie era of those two movies, it wasn't that great. And then going back into Resurrection was there as well. And that was after H2O. And that movie was dumpster fire. It was kind of like, not found footage, but it was like a live action. There was like a camera crew and these people wearing these cams where they're walking around the Myers building, the home of Michael Myers. And they're staging all these different things. But turns out Michael Myers is actually there. And, they kind of think it's all a ruse until people start getting killed. And toward the end of the movie, it just gets really, they had Busta Rhymes trying to like Jackie Chan, because he's big into like ninjas and like a lot of, I guess, martial arts and things like that. And Michael Myers is going after Tara Banks' character, and he kind of gets involved and he's trying to save her and everything like that. And they're in this fire in the garage, and he ends up just like boxing and fighting Michael Myers, and it's just so over the top and just unnecessary. And it again, it just takes away from the experience of the movie. So that's the Halloween series. But the new ones, actually, I forgot. We'll kind of touch up on the new ones. The new ones were great outside of Halloween Ends. The first one, the 2018, 2017, I forgot what year it came out, but it reestablishes like PTSD Laurie Strode from the first movie. I think the first one was canon, but they dismissed the second one and everything after that, and they made this new kind of branched off timeline. And that movie, I think, was exceptional. You have Laurie Strode, who has PTSD from that night. She can't really live a normal life. She's just constantly preparing for him to come back. And everyone's telling her she's crazy, and everyone tells her she needs to get over it. And it turns out she was right to be continuing to prepare. So in the conclusion of that movie, everyone kind of goes to her house, and she's trying to protect them and get them out of the house and still kill Michael Myers. And that kind of leads into Halloween Kills, which I want to talk about, just a kill fest, man. That was such a great movie. If you just like Michael Myers just slashing off people you don't care about, that's the movie to watch. Laurie Strode's character is kind of sidelined for that movie. She's in the movie, but she's kind of sidelined for that movie. She's not in the action. And they put Tommy Doyle and Judy Greer's character as kind of like the two protagonists in the movie. And, the pacing in that movie was great. The action in that movie was great. I think the side plots on that kind of make sense for the movie, like a town trying to rise up against them and create a mob and try to kill this entity. And they had them against the ropes, and apparently they're all exhausted. And at the end of the movie, Michael Myers just gets up and just starts killing everybody. And that was the only part of the movie that I was dissatisfied with, was where it ended. But the rest of the movie was great. I wish they would have, they all turn their back thinking he's dead. And I think he starts picking them off one by one until they're like, oh my God, what's going on? And that would have made more sense, but they're all just standing around waiting to slash. And you're just like, all right, this makes no sense. But like I said, one small detail that I wish they would have fixed, but the rest of the movie was great. Halloween Ends, I'm not going to even go down that road. That was a dumpster fire. The first two movies, to the build up to that was your big epic conclusion. No, I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think that movie is trash, and I will end the series at Halloween Kills until something else comes out that satisfies my needs, because that was an awful movie. There's no way, there's nothing redeemable about that movie. So Halloween franchise, we talked about the Scream franchise. I talked about what made that so great. The whodunit kind of serial killer. That's a franchise, like I said, I've been following for years, and I love that franchise. It's something that's unique in a slasher genre that's saturated with just brute force supernatural slashers. This is a whodunit slasher, and they continue to, I think, keep the story interesting enough and have these legacy characters continue to come back and really make something special in this franchise. And then the last movie I'm going to kind of discuss was my boy Art the Clown over there, pushing the boundaries and evolving horror. That is something I've been looking for years. And Damien Leone, the director of the Terrifier franchise, my goodness, I think he is a brilliant mind, and he is great at the special effects and pushing the boundaries of what horror is, at least in today's society. And a lot of stuff's been done before. And I understand Art the Clown. There's another clown, another killer, but the way that he does it and this mysteriousness around this character, and you kind of root for him in a way because of his antics. He's sinister. He's an interesting character. There's no, again, just like Jason Voorhees, just like Michael Myers, this is a character you can't reason with. But the way that he does things, he's not just a brute force. He kind of plays with his food before he eats it, and he kills you in such a brutal fashion that hasn't been done before. The kills are creative. The story behind it and the supernatural element to it continue to evolve with every single movie. And it's all leading up to this new movie that's going to come out that's supposed to be the conclusion and a little bit of backstory of Art the Clown. And I think that mysteriousness and the delivery on every single movie, and how it ups the ante, how it ups the suspense and the seriousness, and the kills just kind of continue to try to one up each other. And I think that's something that's Damien Leone has continued to push the boundaries of. All the great movie franchises up until this point for horror movies, the great ones continue to one up each other. From Halloween 1 to Halloween 2, it upped the ante, and then it kind of dialed it back. Nightmare on Elm Street from 1 to 2 is garbage, but the third one, wow, you want to talk about a great movie. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, such a great movie. That upped the ante a little bit, and it established the protagonist to have some sort of power and to be kind of a hero in their own dream. And that's kind of empowering too, especially during the times that they were making that movie. And then, but going back to the Terrifier franchise, it started with Terrifier, which Terrifier 1 was great. It established the character, it established the brutality, established kind of the lore of who Art the Clown is. And then the second one really kind of took the reins and took off with it. And that is a franchise I really backed right away. I saw the first one. I was a fan. The mysteriousness, I liked everything that movie represented and how it evolved the horror franchise, especially the unique kills. And then the second one really just went bonkers with it. Was it a long movie? Sure. I don't think it was too long. I thought the pacing was great. I thought the kills were unique. I thought it established a great final girl in Lauren Laverne's Sienna Shaw. And it gave you more breadcrumbs about who Art the Clown actually is without revealing all of its secrets. And this is a supernatural entity it stalks its prey until it's ready to strike. And I think it perfected that pacing, and it perfected like torturing somebody and then having them beg for, kill me at the end of the movie. I think that's what it was trying to evolve to. Like, hey, I killed all your friends. I killed all your family. Now I want you to, you're going to be my last victim. You're going to be the person that suffers last. And then the third movie did the same thing. Like, she's the final girl, and he's picking off a lot of different people in her life and leading up to her being the final victim in that movie. And obviously Art the Clown, things don't go his way. And a lot of times when he plays with his food, especially Lauren Laverne's character, he doesn't eat. He likes to prolong it and make her really suffer and beg for mercy. And then only then will I kill you, kind of thing. That's the vibe I get from him. But this is the Sienna Shaw characters. This is somebody that she's a strong, independent person, and she never begs for that mercy, and she always finds a way to get out and persevere, what makes her character so interesting, because even at the end of all that, she still wants to be a fighter. She still wants to live her life and try to have some sort of normal life, even though in the third movie, she has such PTSD, she can't live her life. She's constantly looking over her shoulder. She's going through all the traumatic experiences that she's reliving those in from the second movie. And she put herself in an institution, and then when she's checked out, she needs help getting over it still. And she has this diary, and it's such a great way. Like, if you live through an experience like that, that is exactly how I think it would go. And I think Damien Leone is a brilliant mind for kind of acknowledging that and then continuing to push the boundaries of what that character is. I'm talking about Terrifier a lot, but this is a franchise that I think they got the killer right. They got the final girl right. And, just the brutality. And like I said, this is, someone that's terrorizing a victim, and he chooses his victim very carefully, and he executes everyone in their life until, you beg for that. You beg for that death. And like I said, it never comes, at least for Sienna Shaw. And that's part of what makes that movie series great. So, but I think I'll be reviewing at least Scream 7. I'll try to review Terrifier 4 when that comes out. I want to say that comes out in October. There's a couple other horror movies like The Strangers 3 coming out this month. The Strangers, meh. The first one was great. They kind of descended drastically in quality after that. They're great slasher movies. If you like horror and you like slashers, those are great movies where you can just watch any one of them. They're kind of one-offs for the most part. And you'll get the story is going to be meh, but if you're in it for like some brutality, some suspense, some kills, it's good for what it is. I do want to dive into like some psychological horror, stuff like Longlegs. There's a spiritual entity or whatever in that movie that's just kind of following you throughout the whole movie, and how it impacts your psyche and your mental. And this detective is trying to kind of put together the pieces of the puzzle to figure out what's happening. And again, that's one of those psychological horror movies that it's great. I think Longlegs was great. Nicolas Cage killed it as the one of the lead. That was not really a lead character, but it's the most interesting character in that movie. And you don't get a lot of time for him to shine in that role. But when he's on screen, you're dialed into the dialogue, and he does a great job capturing you in that movie. So, and I plan on doing some other ones that might not be spiritual, maybe something, like I said, supernatural, or just like based off like maybe documentaries and things like that. We'll see. But I'm trying to start like a different, like I'm doing a lot of political stuff. I'm trying to get away from that into some other interests. And this is just kind of the start of it. Maybe just doing a series on just the horror movies that I like, and maybe kind of placating into some of like the storylines that I enjoy, the characters that I enjoy, maybe deep diving into the psychology of some of the killers and things like that. I think that'd be a pretty interesting, doing some research and talking about some of my findings and sharing with you how I feel about that. So, and the last movie series I want to just kind of briefly talk about, because one of my favorite horror movies in the entire catalog of horror movies is Hellraiser 2. And Pinhead, great, interesting character. The Cenobites, great, interesting kind of concept of characters. This puzzle box that unleashes them, and you see people seeking out it and opening it, basically opening this door to hell. Such a great, like the premise of the entirety of that Hellraiser franchise is excellent. But they really executed. Hellraiser 2 was, I think, the greatest horror movie ever made. I at least try to watch it once a year. And this is a franchise that has a lot of bad movies. I'm not going to lie to you. First one was great. Second one was great. Third one was meh. And then the quality just dips hard after that. Inferno was awful. Judgment was awful. What I will say, they do redeem themselves in the new one. Is it the best one? Obviously not, because I'm telling you that Hellraiser 2 was great, and it's my favorite horror movie. But Hellraiser, the new one, the remake, where they had like the girl Pinhead. Again, this is someone that is, the main character was a traumatic character, recovering drug addict. She thinks she's like going crazy. Turns out she's not, and things kind of escalate from there. And I think that movie was executed well. The psychological part of it, and taking this journey with this girl who thinks she's crazy, and then that evolves into something where she's like, well, now I'm just trying to survive, and I'm dragging all these other people into this mess that I created from this puzzle box thing. And it's just like, it does a great job trying to get you back into the franchise. And I really do hope they make a second one, because that movie was such a great watch, and it was a great concept. And I hope they continue to follow that character. Going back to the second one though, the first one really established like everything I said. The Cenobites are great. How this person escaped hell, her uncle escaped hell with the help of this girl, which is, I think it's his ex-wife or his girlfriend or something. And she keeps bringing bodies for him to kind of like get his natural body back into the world. And the main character, she kind of goes over there, and she sees her uncle, and he was going to kill her. And then the Cenobites kind of show up because they know that he escaped hell. And then like that's where the movie ends, like them getting him back into hell. And the main character, she escapes, and she wasn't the same though. So in the second one, she goes and, she basically, the premise is she enters hell with this other character. She's kind of quiet. She doesn't say a lot, but that's what makes that her this other character that's with her so encapsulating, because she's a curious mind. So it's not the main character. It's like kind of this side character that goes with her to this hell world. And she doesn't really say a lot. She's just a curious mind, gets in there. And then just everything that happens while they're in hell, like they're in there for a while, like the whole movie, which is why I think it's such a great movie, is because you want to know more about the Cenobites in hell. You want to know more about this other world, and you're encapsulated by this other world that could have been in the first one. And it just executed so well in the second one. And the story was great. The acting's great. The payoff at the end was great. And if they remade a horror movie today to where like you can modernize the graphics without too much CGI, I think that's the movie that I would pick for them to make, is just skip the first one, go right to the second one. I want to see this movie remade, redone, because I think they can evolve some of those special effects to make it be even like kind of really over the top and modernize it and just really put it at 100% for me. I mean, it's a movie that's like 98, 99, but just because the era it's in, and it's no fault of their own. Back then, I'm sure it was a perfect horror movie. But with today's technology, I think that is a movie that I would love to see remade. Just same characters, same storyline, just update the CGI and the special effects, and I think you got a home run there. So we'll dive into more horror movies. Maybe I'll go franchise to franchise and do, maybe I'll just do a Nightmare on Elm Street one, and then a Friday the 13th one, and then a Halloween one. Really kind of dive deeper into the lore and the stories and things like that, to where, I can, build a community of people who share some of the same sentiments as me, and continue to, talk about all things horror, because honestly, I enjoy it. And if you enjoy it too, please like and follow and subscribe and all that fun stuff, and keep supporting the page. And I'll have more of these in the future. And if you're here for the horror, or if you're here for politics, I apologize. I'm kind of trying to dual threat this and bring some of my interest in while trying to put some good back in the world. So just trying to keep a little bit of fresh take on the, what's on this page, and continue to evolve what this page could be, and then continue to challenge people's mindsets and everything in the world. So thank you again. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And we'll see you next time.